So we're recording. Welcome to New Earth podcast, Sylvia Muiznieks. It's wonderful to have you as a guest on the podcast today.
Well, it's actually my pleasure, Sarah, to join you with this wonderful work that you're doing, getting the message out to everybody.
Oh, thank you. I've actually known Sylvia for many, many years. We met back in about 2006, and I rocked up to this beachside venue to take a consciousness class with her. And little did I know that I was about to have a lot of my beliefs examined and turned upside down, and a lot of them thrown out altogether. And that was the start of quite a few classes with Sylvia. So it's been a wonderful journey, and Sylvia's been a great inspiration to me for many, many years. So I'm very, very grateful. So I wonder if you might just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to see consciousness as so important to the human condition.
Yeah, well, I suppose I can start back with my childhood. I was exposed to natural forms of health through my parents because they owned a health food store back in the 50s in Canada and Ontario. I'm sure it must have been one of the very first health food stores in North America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my dad had brought over with him his knowledge of herbs and plants and muds and teas and God knows what all else from Germany. And so that's what I was exposed to. Whenever something went wrong, it was natural. We hardly ever went to a doctor. Actually, I can't remember. I think the only time I ever went was when I slipped on some ice in public school on the ice rink, and I landed on my face, and they took me to the doctor to see if my nose was broken. But other than that, I was exposed to just natural ways of healing. And so when I reached university, my interest was in the body and how it works. And so I took a kinesiology and health studies degree. And that gave me a really good understanding of the body from the Western perspective. But then I met Vilnius, you've met him too, my husband, and we started our family. So I was out of commission actually for about 10 years or so. And then when I decided to get back into the workforce, I was looking for something in the Western field. But as fate would have it, I ended up taking a massage course. And so that led me down a completely different path in terms of understanding the body from that perspective. And I ended up being asked to teach and then to run that massage program. And in the course of doing that work, I also introduced a lot of other complementary health certificates. At the time, it was I was working with, I actually created the Center for Complementary Health Education at Mount Royal University. And I introduced courses on herbology and acupressure and aromatherapy, all sorts of different alternative or complementary types of modalities. And so I got to gain, again, a different perspective on the body from those perspectives. Yeah, so I was at Mount Royal for 9 years. And during that time, one of my massage instructors actually introduced me to an American, George Adair, who was coming up to Calgary and doing some workshops here. And that was the first time that I came across consciousness work and how that sort of explains, what this is all about. And then a little while after I started doing some of his work, BodyTalk came across my desk. And I was intrigued because, what the founder, John Veltheim, had created was the ability to do some of that work one-on-one rather than just in a group setting. And so I started by inviting him to come up and teach the first course in Canada. And I never looked back because it was just that influential on me. And then when I was working with my clients, I actually turned my part-time massage therapy clinic over immediately. I just told everybody,
Oh, wow.
I'm doing this energy work now. Here's a list of other massage therapists if you would like to, continue with that. But most of them actually tried.
That's
the energy
fabulous, because I know a
work.
lot of people could get stuck in that, couldn't they? That whole barrier of shifting, from massage into body talk. So,
But I was just so convinced that it was so much, better, like getting a little bit closer to, why people were experiencing aches and pains in their body, and not just using something to alleviate the pain, which would then come back later because he hadn't looked at a little bit deeper what was going on. And then also, as I was working through the BodyTalk, because I became, as you know, an instructor and have traveled all around the world, and I was still keeping a clientele going. And through other reading and studies and so on, I got to understand a little bit more about consciousness. And I really wanted to go deeper into frequencies. And particularly what attracted me were the frequencies of light and love. To me, those were the strongest frequencies for healing and for manifesting and so on. And it was one of the things that we weren't doing in BodyTalk. But again, we are sort of pushed and pulled along our path, whether we want to go there or not. And a number of things then also fell into place, where one of my local colleagues here, she came to me and asked me if I could come up with a course that she could take to an Asian country that she was invited to. And I remember it was a Sunday afternoon, and I just sat down and went into my alpha mind state, and it just all downloaded. Within 3 hours, I had the whole complete package.
oh, how amazing.
Yeah. And she took that over to China, and she had a lot of success with it. And then anyway, long story short, all these little pieces came together, and I ended up creating the HelioSol System that took all of these parts and was really focused more on looking at the body from a slightly different perspective than we did in BodyTalk. So looking at the body as frequencies that have been collapsed into the physical that we can, see and feel and touch with our senses. And so we can then use frequencies to also shift what's going on in the body mind as well. So
yeah, you mentioned that the frequencies that you were really interested in were light and love, and I see those frequencies being very connected to our essence. So do you feel what you're doing with this work and this system, it's helping us to reconnect with our essence that's perhaps got covered up by layers of conditioning and beliefs and that kind of stuff?
absolutely. I mean, we already are light and love. That's our essence. But the way that we come into this world, we're sort of, I always used to say, like in that course you were mentioning, that consciousness course, we are wired to be miserable.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and I don't know why, but all of us, each one of us, when we come into this reality, we come in with those layers of conditioning, as you mentioned. You know, some of it comes in genetically, and then some of it is attracted to us in the womb, and then at birth we add more layers. And then in our early childhood, I mean, we have some of our beliefs about, you know, separation and maybe not having enough love or not being appreciated and so on, not being seen. You know, they're all accentuated. And we come up with coping mechanisms to help us literally survive childhood.
Yeah.
But then at some point as an adult, those coping mechanisms, they don't work anymore and they make us miserable. And that's when we start to look for answers. And hopefully we'll come across, you know, something that will start to help us unravel all of that, take away those layers so that we can experience again our true nature.
It's interesting with these coping mechanisms because often, like you mentioned, they're formed in early childhood or even pre-verbal, or in the womb. So often people associate them with who they are. And so how, with the work that you're doing, do you get that kind of release so that people can actually see, actually, this is not who I really am, it's just who I think I am?
That's a good question. So that technique, the HelioSol technique that came to me in that one afternoon, just by doing that alone, like if a person really wants to experience their true nature, that particular technique done daily or whenever automatically brings in the frequencies of the light of who we are, universal consciousness, energies. And the way that it's set up, by breathing in that light and having it go down through the breathing tube, which is what I call it. You can also think of it as the Sushumna channel, passing through the central nervous system and passing through all the chakras. Through resonance, we know that you know, things that are a little off with their frequencies, once they can reconnect with the frequency they're meant to be vibrating at, they will shift. You don't even need to do anything.
Right.
And then through resonance, those frequencies will actually pass through the rest of the body mind and make some corrections. So we're using the light of who we are to actually shift the frequencies of the body mind so that it can be in resonance with or coherent with that light frequency. Now, we also include, it's not just the light frequency, but it's a feeling as well that goes with that. The feeling of love and gratitude for whatever it is that is going on for you right now. There's always something you can be, you know, have gratitude towards. And that energy comes from the heart. That's sort of where we think of it being located, and then it radiates out from there. So you have not only the light of who we are, but the love that is also our essence spreading out. And you don't have to do anything else except that to start shifting what's going on. not everybody, you know, is willing to do that kind of work themselves. And so that's why we also have the system, the sessions that people can do, so that it's the practitioner who's trained to have that light and love frequency flowing. And then when the client is working with them, we can clear, using those frequencies, specific blocks for that person, and then they will feel closer, and you know, to that
so it may be that a specific organ or endocrine or body part has gone out of resonance, you know, and does that tend to be independent, or does it tend to affect the things around it? You know, does it, the kind of, is there an interplay there?
Oh, everything is connected. Yeah, everything is connected. But if you follow the connections back far enough, you always end up with something happening in consciousness. That's where it all really starts. So, you know, a person has a belief that they have either picked up or created, as we say, early in childhood. By the time a person is 7 years old, they have all their basic belief systems about themselves and the world around them. And then they operate and react to things in life from that 7-year-old mindset.
Yes.
So we often have to go back to that to find, you know, what is the belief system that acts as a lens for consciousness to collapse all the possibilities into the one that the person is experiencing. And so because the person, everything is whole. We think of things in duality. That's the way, for whatever reason, this universe and our earth has been set up, is to create an illusion of duality. So we think that, you know, there are opposite polarities to everything. Like there's poor, there's rich, there's in, there's out, there's tall, there's short, there's, you know, like we think in duality. And so we also think of our bodies as being two separate things. We think of it as mind and body, not seeing that there's a connection. But that is all part of the way that we're wired, and the way that
it's interesting, isn't it? Do you feel that you know, you've talked about the light and love. Do you see that as sitting outside of polarity?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, we obviously have light and dark, but it kind of seems to operate in a different way, doesn't it?
Well, it all comes down to perspective. So, for example, you know, as a sort of an analogy or a metaphor, the sun represents light, right? And from the sun's perspective, everything is light. There is no darkness, right? But us on Earth, that revolves and so on, we perceive the sun coming up, creating light, and then disappearing, creating dark.
Yes.
Right? So it's our perception that creates the light and the dark. From the sun's perspective, everything is light.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's what we, with the way that we've been created and wired, what we just don't get is that we are that same light.
Yeah. I love this. And I love the way you spoke about earlier that, you know, the 7 years, the early years, we kind of attach to those beliefs, and it then collapses all the possibilities. So that's kind of connection with the quantum realm as well, with this work. You know, as soon as we start to work with light, we're also working on a quantum level. Is that how you see it, Sylvia?
Absolutely. And the quantum world is basically the same as the consciousness realm. That what's interesting is that there is only one truth, or whatever you want to call it. And the only difference is how you express it, like what words you use, what imagery you use, and so on. So right now we've got quantum physics. You know, they're finding all of these things that are so unique, you know, in that subquantum world. Blows everybody away that, you know, the same particle can be in two different places, and, you know, it takes the observer to collapse everything and can change something from a wave to a particle and so on. So they're using scientific words that appeal to like the Western mind, but they're actually describing exactly the same phenomena as the ancient sages did with their poetic you know, imagery and so on. Like all we're doing is changing the packaging of how we're presenting, you know, how this is all working, how it all works.
So the scientific and the spiritual starts to come together, you know, whereas in the Cartesian model, it was all very separate. And
you know, we actually needed probably to go through that separation of the Cartesian view of things in order to get to this place now where we can put the two together. Back in, was it the 1600s or whenever it was, you know, the Catholic Church was getting really upset with the scientists who wanted to dig up bodies and study the anatomy and the physiology. And so that's when that split occurred. It was like, okay, the church, you can take care of the spirit, the scientists will take care of the physical. And so that separated also the mind from the body, right? And this is where we got that duality. But it sort of had to happen that way so that the scientists could get to the place where they had the equipment to start looking not only larger, like with telescopes and that sort of thing, but also smaller, going down into the quantum world. They needed to have that freedom. But now they're seeing that, wow, you know, what we're seeing at the micro level is basically the same as at the macro level, which is the same as the spiritual level.
That was my next question, Sylvia. Actually, Sylvia, what I'm finding is I'm having about 10 questions coming and I'm having to skip them because it's just so rich, everything that you're presenting. It's amazing. So that the macro and the micro are coming together. They kind of, and we find spirit, you know, in those you know, macro and the, you know, outside in the universe, which is almost where we always used to place it, outside ourselves, but now it's that understanding that it's deeply embedded in the cellular level.
And it explains you know, what some of the ancients, like there are stories about, like I can't remember which war it was, but there were some pilots flying, must be World War I, and they were going to drop some bombs and over this town, and the religious figure in that town wanted to spare it, so he bilocated. The pilot saw him in the air, right? And you know, telling them not to throw their bombs down on this town. Well, it spooked the pilots. They didn't do it. But, you know, from a Western mindset, that was like impossible. There's no
Yes.
way that that person, you know, that man could have been on the ground and there at the same time. But at the quantum level, that's what they're finding, is that the same particle can be in two different places at the same time. So now we're starting to find that there is a scientific explanation for some of these miracles or whatever that, you know, had been talked about in ancient times.
So do you see the work that you're doing as kind of watching miracles, Sylvia? Do you see it as you know, because it's tapping into the potentiality, really, isn't it? You know, so it's in a way you're watching it, you know, rather than how do you see that?
Well, again, it comes down to, you know, what you believe. If you believe in miracles, they will happen. And if you think that that's all bunk, well, you won't experience them, right? So I can actually give a very personal example. When one of our grandsons, when he was only about 3 years old, he developed some kind of issue where his skin was basically turning black and falling off.
Oh
And
gosh.
so he ended up in hospital in the burn unit on morphine. They were trying to keep him alive because it was very painful. And when my son contacted us and let us know what was going on, I asked him, you know, permission to do some work with him, and he said yes. So I started working with him, but so did some of my colleagues. So it was, you know, there were more people working on him. And my son and daughter-in-law, they were told that if he survives, he would be in hospital for 2-3 weeks, maybe even longer. He would need skin grafts as he gets older and, you know, his body starts to grow. This child was out of the hospital on day 8
Wow,
with
amazing.
all his skin intact, no scarring.
Incredible.
That's, from a medical perspective, impossible.
Yes.
Doctors had no explanation, right? So I mean, that's a personal example, but I have,
Yes.
with my clients, I have seen, you know, amazing things, but they also need to be ready to go there. A young child, he was only around 3 years old. He doesn't have beliefs around, well, it should take a long time for me to heal, you know, all those kinds of belief systems. He just accepted all the frequencies that were coming his way,
Yay.
and his body shifted and changed, and, you know,
That's amazing.
it can be done. Time and space do not really exist the way that we think it does. That's another you know, tenet that comes to us from quantum physics. But the ancients knew that already. The Aboriginals knew that. I mean, they would maybe fall in a hole, break a leg, and 24 hours later it would be healed.
Yes. I mean, I feel we're moving back to that. You know, I think more and more people have perhaps, you know, in recent years lost a little bit of faith in the medical world, and we're moving back to people wanting to explore different options and looking at frequency, consciousness, medicine.
Well, my belief is that all of the different modalities, including Western medicine, that are out there have something to offer.
Totally.
And, you know, I have often said this in class to my students, you know, that are taking the work with me. If you find me, you know, lying on in the middle of the road from a car accident with some bones that are broken and stuff, don't just stand over me and do, you know,
You want the hospital.
HelioSol work. I mean, call, 911, which is the emergency number here in Canada. Get the ambulance, get the attendants, get me to a hospital, because that's what the doctors are good at, putting bones back in and whatever. But then once all of that has been done, start doing the HelioSol work. Get the reason why I needed to be in that accident, why it was that my bones had to be broken, so that the healing can actually be complete, not just superficial from what the medical people do. But they have a role to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that that's where we're heading, where we can start that kind of integration as well.
Yes.
So Sylvia, you spoke earlier about the HelioSol process that people go through. I know that you'd wanted to have an experiential aspect to the class, to the talk tonight. Is that a part of what you wanted to do, or was it something else that you were going to lead us through?
Well, what I was thinking was, to have people experience that light and that love and the gratitude of their essential nature. And what I can do is I can lead, through the different frequency colors up to the white light. I don't know, you can see behind me, there's the one of the posters that sort of indicates this, so that you can actually experience with all your senses, actually, that energy, and then, bring you back down again. I could do that.
That sounds fabulous. And can you talk a little bit about why it's important to bring in all the senses just before we do that? Because I know you spoke about the love earlier and how that feeling can help with the manifestation or shift in frequency. What role do the senses play?
Well, the five senses are really the only way that we can bring information to our brain. And so if you want to pick up new information, have new experiences, it needs to come in through the senses. Some people have like a dominant sense, like most of us rely on seeing. That's how we've been trained in school. The saying, if I can see it, I'll believe it.
Yes.
But the other senses are just as important to pick up information and about our true selves. So we just try to stimulate the different parts of the brain to open up. So if we're just seeing, we're only using the back parts of our brain. But if we try to listen to something different, then we're stimulating the association areas in the temporal lobes. Taste and smell is in the parietal, and feeling is in the up in this area as well. So we're just opening up the cells of the brain to start being open and receptive to new experiences, new information. And because we're dealing with the light and frequencies of who we are, we get closer to that wisdom, that knowledge, without having to be taught anything.
It's more like a remembering, do you feel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of philosophies and other sort of spiritual traditions talk about. They talk about remembering who you are.
Yes.
You can do that without any formal words, because words can't actually even describe who we are. You have to experience it. And the way we experience it is through our five senses.
Yes. Are you happy to take us through that process then, Sylvia?
Sure.
And is there anything anybody needs to do to make themselves comfortable beforehand?
Well, actually, I was talking to one of my instructors yesterday, and I was mentioning to her, you know, I might, you know, do this little exercise. And she says, well, be sure to tell people if they're driving and
Oh,
listening to
yes.
the podcast not to do this exercise.
It was good. Someone last time, someone did a deep kind of process and remembered that. It's something I need to remember to say as well, because that wouldn't be
Yeah,
good. So maybe,
you're gonna
yeah,
go into an altered state of mind. It's a different frequency of brain waves. And so, yeah, you don't want to be doing anything where you need to be alert. Make sure that you're in a place where you can, you know, close your eyes, relax, and just fully immerse yourself into the experience.
fabulous. Thank you,
Okay.
Sylvia.
So I do invite everyone then to begin this journey by sort of settling back in your chair. And it probably is better to do it sitting, because if you're lying down, you might fall asleep and miss the whole thing. So you want to just be as comfortable as you can in your chair. It's usually better to have your legs not crossed, and you can rest your arms on your lap, and you can have your palms up or down, just as long as the fingers aren't sort of laced together. And with your eyes closed, you can take several breaths, breathing in slowly and deeply, breathing out fully and completely. You're breathing in relaxation and breathing out tension. So breathing in, breathing out. And then you're gently going to focus your attention on the muscles of the face, the jaw, the tongue, the neck, and just scrunch it all up. Tighten all the muscles. Hold for a few seconds and then let it all go. Feel the difference between when the muscles are tensed up and when they're relaxed. And then focus on the muscles of your shoulders, your arms, your hands, and your chest. Again, contract all those muscles, clenching your hands into fists, and hold for a few seconds. Now release. Notice the tension ebbing away. Next, contract your stomach, your buttocks, your legs, your feet muscles, holding the contraction, and then release. So your entire body now feels a lot more relaxed as you continue to breathe relaxation in and stress out. Breathe in, breathe out. Now bring your mind's attention to a red ball of light that you see in front of you. Now, if you don't see it, you can just make it up. You can just say to yourself, I see a red ball of light. And then you're going to explore it with all of your senses. Pretend like you can walk around this red ball of light. Reach out your hand to touch it. Smell it. Let it rest on your tongue, this red light. What does it taste like? Listen to the sound it makes. And again, you can just make it all up if you're not actually experiencing any of these senses. Just make it up. Now envision the red energy of the sphere expanding and growing and swirling around you. Its vibration starts to envelop you. The red light fills you and you become one with the red light. You are now inside the ball of red light. Continue to explore what the red vibration feels like, what it sounds like, smells and tastes like from inside the ball of red light. Also be open to any information you might pick up from the red light frequencies. And then pull yourself up and out of the red sphere of light. Now you see before you an orange ball of light. You're going to explore the orange light with all of your senses. First, walk around the outside of the sphere of orange. Touch it, smell it, taste it. Listen to the sound it makes, and make it all up if you have to. Then the orange light magnifies in intensity and expands to an orange vibration that surrounds you and envelops you with its orangeness. You are now inside the orange globe of light. Explore the qualities of the orange light with all your senses, remaining open to any information this range of frequencies has to offer. And so we continue with the other light frequencies. You're going to now move up and out of the orange light, and you see before you a yellow ball of light. Walk around it. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What sound does it make? As you explore the yellow light with your senses, it begins to grow and softly caresses you with its yellowness. Continue to experience the yellow vibrations through all your senses. Come up and out of the yellow light and notice a green ball of light in front of you. Explore the essence of this green light. Again, first from the outside. Then allow the green vibration to flow gently above you, below you, all around you, and through you. What does that feel like? Taste like? Sound like? What information are you picking up? Moving up and out of the green light, notice a blue globe of light floating in front of you. Take a moment to explore it from the outside. Reach out your hand, touch it. Breathe in the blue light to smell it. Then as it expands and expands to gently cocoon you in its blue vibration, take another moment to explore its qualities from within and any information it has to share with you. Pull yourself up and out of the blue light to find a purple ball of light to experience. Walk around the purple ball of light, noticing how it smells, tastes, feels, and sounds. The essence of the purple light expands and forms a warm blanket of purple light all around you. What does that feel like? What does it sound like? Taste and smell like? What is the information the purple light has to share? Now you leave the purple ball of light and pull yourself up and out to notice a violet ball of light in front of you. Notice how the violet frequencies feel when you touch the violet light. Notice the sound that the violet makes, what it tastes and smells like. As it begins to expand outward, you find yourself inside the violet sphere of light. you become one with the violet light, fully sensing it with every fiber of your being. But we're not finished yet. Pull yourself out of the violet light to find a sphere of bright, pure white light in front of you. We call this the omnisphere. It is a place of infinite possibilities. Explore the omnisphere with all your senses, first from the outside, and envision the brilliant white light expanding and swirling around you, penetrating your body deeply until you are one with the white light, and you find yourself as an integral part of the omnisphere. Look around you and explore the nature of the vibration with all your senses. You might perhaps look for all the other color frequencies that are part of the infinite range of frequencies within the sphere. You might also find that it resonates in a particular part of your body. You might also perhaps pick up some wisdom from these frequencies. And now we will be retracing the journey that brought us to the omnisphere in reverse. But we won't spend as much time with each sphere of light as we did coming here. Simply, slowly sink down out of the brilliant white light into the violet ball of light as the omnisphere floats gently up above your head. Now you find yourself surrounded by the frequencies of the violet light. Pay attention to any sensations or information you may be picking up. And now the violet ball of light too floats up over the top of you as you sink into the purple sphere of light. Now watch the purple light float up as you sink into the blue ball of light, keeping an awareness through all your senses. Gently lower yourself out of the blue light and down into the green ball of light. Sink down into the yellow ball of light as the green one floats up and away. Sink into the orange ball of light, picking up whatever sensations and wisdom you receive. Feel the orange light float up as you sink into the red ball of light. Finally, sink out of the red light back into your chair. Take a few deep breaths, bringing your awareness back into your body. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Begin to stir. Stretch a little bit, move your muscles, and slowly open your eyes and reorient yourself to your current environment. Well, that was a little quick, but how was it?
It's a beautiful process. It's something I'd like to explore some more. So this is something that people can learn to do this process themselves.
Well, absolutely. And you can slow it down, both going in and out, so that you have a lot of time to let your senses, become involved. I didn't want to take up too much time here, but you get the general sense of it.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful.
So with the HelioSol technique, what we actually do is we bring the light of universal consciousness, that omnisphere, in through the top of the head, so the crown chakra, which is the violet, down to the base chakra, which is the red frequency. And then from there, it just resonates out with all of its information. So when that's actually the only technique in the whole system. It's used for daily work, doing it for yourself. It's used in an emergency. We have an emergency care template that has all the frequencies that we highlight in the light. We're not separating anything out. Like, the white light contains all the information we need to be ourselves, because we're light beings. But we can highlight, which ones through the work, whether it's trying to do a physical repair if somebody's had an emergency, or whether it's going down to the belief system that is causing the person to collapse all of the possibilities to what they are now experiencing, whether it's an accident or something else in their lives. We can highlight these, and then that all resonates out to the cells or the energy systems. It could be a meridian, it could be an acupuncture point, that will then start to pick up and change its frequency, its vibration, to match what it's supposed to be vibrating at. This concept of resonance is easily demonstrated when, you take, say, a guitar, and you have another guitar in the room, or 2 or 3 other guitars in the room, and you pluck one of the strings. Then that vibration moves out, and the same string on the other guitars that are meant to vibrate at that frequency, they will pick up that frequency and start vibrating.
Yes.
That's what happens as we highlight, or not even highlight, just bring in the light of who we are. It all resonates out and starts to shift and change, so that everything is vibrating at its optimal frequency.
That sounds like amazing work, Sylvia. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today before we finish up? Any last thoughts for the viewers? Or I know there'll be lots of body talkers watching this, and I mean, that's how I met you, through Body Talk. So I'm sure that, it's kind of opening up another lens to look at consciousness through, in a way, isn't it?
Well, if I were to address the body talkers who are viewing this, your work is incredible. Body talk works.
Yes.
We have also seen miracles with it. It was extremely cutting edge for its time. John developed it based on his background with everything that he had studied, and a lot of it had to do with dynamic systems theory, that everything is connected to everything and so on. And so the system was based on that. I have taken everything that I have learned and taught through that system, but have applied it now through a different lens.
Yes.
Instead of the dynamic systems theory, I'm looking at it through consciousness, through the light of who we are, the quantum vibrations and so on. But everything that we do and did, or you're doing in Body Talk, is a vibration. It is a frequency.
Yes.
Thoughts, ideas, concepts, they're all frequencies. And all I'm doing is changing it so that we're highlighting those in the light that we're bringing in and allowing it to do its work, through resonance. So I see the HelioSol work as a complement, as perhaps standing on the shoulders of BodyTalk. And I absolutely think that, you know, BodyTalk is a great foundation for, you know, taking that next step, because a lot of what I'm doing now through the HelioSol, looking at things, is just a little bit different. Even though I tried to get John, you know, to look at this, he had his own ideas. So anyway, yeah. So, you know, I think
even as therapists, you know, you take a system and you make it your own, don't you? So,
yes.
you know, there comes a point when, you know, you think, am I really still doing body talk? You know, and it's that journey then, isn't it? If you feel it's branched off so much, you know, to really honor your work.
If you look at all the top instructors, like at the time when I was still involved, I think every one of us has kind of like branched off, bringing our own flavor to and our own perspective to the work that we used, you know, the BodyTalk as a basis, as a foundational block. So it's only natural. I remember somebody once said, BodyTalk is like a fire, you know, like a campfire. And all of these other instructors are like embers that have flown off. And, you know, they're now shining with their light and
yes.
their fire. So I think it all needs to be seen as one.
Yes.
You know, like, it's not like one system is better than another or anything like that. We're all aiming for the same end result. We're just doing it from a different perspective.
Yes.
And there is no perspective that's right. There's no perspective that's wrong. They're just different perspectives.
Yeah.
And, you know, another way of looking at it would be, because everything is one. I used to use this analogy. It's like you have a huge diamond and the light is shining out of the diamond, but the diamond has different facets on it. So when the light shines out here, it may be blue. If it shines out there, it may be purple, you know, and that's the same with all the modalities. They're all a part of the one. They just have a different appeal because of how the light shines through them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. It's been amazing. How can people get in contact with you, Sylvia, if they want to explore the work that you're doing a little bit deeper?
Well, we have the official HelioSol website. That's HelioSolSystem.org. I have my own personal website, which is innatehealing.net. We also have a Facebook page. That's HelioSol Sys, S-Y-S. And yeah, we've got courses coming up. There are courses that are available all the time because they're recorded. I have an intro course coming up. It's called Introduction to the HelioSol System for Practitioners of Other Modalities. So, you know, if you're interested, there's one in September and one in October. So
well, give me the links for that, and I can put it with the video to make it easy for people to find. I'll put it in the description so that people can find you easily and the amazing work that you're doing.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been lovely to connect with you. It's been a little while, hasn't it? So it's been wonderful to have a bit of a catch up.
Thought about it. It's, you know, been like 12 or 13 years since we first met.
Yes.
That was a long time ago. So.
Yeah, or maybe even longer, was it? It's because of 2000, I think it was 2006 that's one in Mount Maunganui. So
That's right. Oh my goodness.
Yes, because we met in New Zealand originally. You're thinking UK, aren't you? But it was
I'm
New
thinking
Zealand.
UK,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. So it's been
Anyway,
quite some
well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
lovely to chat with you. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Do hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get some more New Earth podcasts. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.